You ever have one of those nights where the world just flips upside down, and you're left wondering who you even are by the time the sun comes up? That's what happened to me at Dusty's Roadside Grill, a beat-up little diner off Route 66 in the middle of nowhere, Arizona. I'm Sarah Kane, just a small-town gal slinging burgers and coffee, trying to keep my head down after a rough couple years patching up soldiers in Iraq. But that night, everything I thought I'd left behind came roaring back, and I mean roaring. It was closing time, the desert air thick with that dry, dusty smell, the kind that sticks in your throat. I was wiping down the counter, humming some old Springsteen tune, when three guys in slick suits walked in, looking way too polished for a place like Dusty's. They weren't here for the meatloaf, that's for damn sure. One of them, this smug bastard with a Rolex glinting under the neon, slid into a booth where Jenny Ruiz sat alone, her guide dog curled up at her feet. Jenny's blind, has been since she was a kid, but she's got this quiet strength, you know? She comes in every Thursday for a milkshake, always tips with a smile. But these guys, they were eyeing her like she was something on a menu. I caught a glimpse of a folder one of them was holding, names, medical jargon, numbers that made my stomach twist. Then the lead guy, Mr. Rolex, leaned in close to Jenny, voice low and oily, saying something about a procedure and helping a lot of people. Jenny's dog growled, and she gripped her cane tighter, her face pale but steady. That's when I heard her whisper, "Not a chance in hell." I don't know what made me move. Maybe it was her voice, maybe it was the way those suits didn't even blink at her defiance, but I grabbed the cast iron skillet from the stove, still hot from frying onions, and swung it hard across Rolex's face. The crack echoed like a gunshot, and he hit the floor, blood trickling from his temple. Before I could even process it, another suit pulled a pistol, aiming right at Jenny. I didn't think, just charged, knocking his arm wide as the shot blew out the D in Dusty's neon sign, sparks raining down like a cheap 4th of July. "You don't touch her," I shouted, my voice raw, like it wasn't even mine. Jenny ducked behind the booth, clutching her cane like a lifeline, and I could see her lips moving, whispering something fierce, like a prayer or a promise. The third suit by the door froze, his eyes darting to a van idling in the parking lot, its taillights glowing red in the dark. These guys weren't random, they were organized, clinical, like wolves in tailored wool. I yanked the folder from Rolex's coat as he groaned on the floor, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Jenny's name was there, listed like inventory. Jennifer Ruiz, 24, corneal tissue, $150,000. My hands shook as I stuffed it in my apron. Organ trafficking. These weren't just thugs, they were harvesters, and Jenny was their target. I slid a butter knife across the floor to her, my voice low, urgent. "Jenny, if anyone gets close, you stab, you hear me?" She nodded, her jaw tight. No tears, just this fire in her I hadn't seen before. The second suit, the one with the gun, staggered up, wiping blood from his lip. "You're in over your head, sweetheart," he sneered, aiming again. "Step aside, and you might still walk out of here." I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Buddy, I've been in deeper shit than you can imagine." Iraq flashed in my mind, sand, blood, the crack of sniper fire, and I was done running from it. I grabbed the coffee pot, still scalding, and hurled it at him. The glass shattered, hot liquid splashing his face, and he screamed, dropping the gun. I tackled him, slamming his wrist against the tile until the pistol skittered free. I scooped it up, my hands steady despite the chaos, and pointed it at his chest. "Move, and you're done." That's when the ground started to shake. A low, bone-deep rumble rolled in from the highway, growing louder, like the earth itself was waking up. Headlights flooded the lot, dozens, maybe hundreds, cutting through the desert night like a wildfire. Chrome gleamed, leather shone, and the roar of 200 Harleys hit like a tidal wave. The suits paled, their bravado cracking like cheap glass. The diner's windows rattled as the bikes circled, not chaotic, but precise, a wall of steel closing in. At the front stood Tommy Bear Ruiz, Jenny's dad, a mountain of a man with a gray beard and a leather vest patched with years of road wars. His eyes locked on his daughter, then on the suits, and I swear the air turned to ice. Bear stepped inside, boots thudding like thunder, his voice a low growl. "Who touched my girl?" I nodded at the suits, my chest heaving. "They came for her, Bear. They've got to list her eyes, her name, all of it." I tossed him the folder, and his face darkened as he scanned it, his fist crumpling the paper. "They think they can carve up my daughter like meat?" he said, his voice deadly calm. "They just started a war." The suit by the door, the only one still standing, smirked, blood dripping from his lip. "You're too late, biker. She's on a list you can't burn. Section 9 doesn't lose." Bear was on him in a second, slamming him against the wall, his fist cracking the guy's jaw. "Section 9, he roared. "I'll bury you and your whole damn network." The guy just laughed, even as he slumped to the floor, and that laugh, cold, unhinged, made my skin crawl. Outside, the desert went quiet, too quiet, and I caught a glint of headlights on the horizon. Not bikes. SUVs, armored, moving fast. "They're not done," I whispered, pulling Jenny behind the counter. Bear barked orders, and the Harleys formed a glowing barricade, engines growling like a pack of wolves. The diner was a fortress now, but it felt like we were staring down a storm. The first SUV screeched into the lot, floodlights blinding us through the shattered windows. Men in black tactical gear spilled out, rifles raised, moving like soldiers, not thugs. This wasn't a grab-and-go anymore, this was a hit squad. Glass exploded as bullets tore through the diner, dishes shattering, neon tubes bursting overhead. I shoved Jenny flat, my body shielding hers, and grabbed a wounded biker, pressing a rag into his bleeding shoulder. "Hold this," I yelled, my medic instincts kicking in. I scooped up his pistol and fired back, dropping one of the gunmen before diving for cover. Bear stormed forward, a shotgun materializing from under his vest. He fired, the blast ripping a gunman through the doorway, and for a split second, the chaos paused. Then it erupted again. Bikers flipped tables for cover, returning fire with whatever they had: handguns, shotguns, pure grit. I spotted the suit I'd scalded earlier, crawling toward Jenny, his eyes wild. I lunged, slamming him into the booth, the pistol under his chin. "I told you," I hissed, my voice shaking with rage. "Not a chance in hell." I pulled the trigger, and he crumpled, lifeless. Jenny whispered my name, her voice steady despite the tears, and I realized she wasn't just a victim, she was a fighter, too. Through the smoke, a new figure emerged from the kitchen, tall, clean suit, surgical gloves, holding a syringe like it was a goddamn cocktail. "Dr. Victor Crane," he said, smooth as silk, like we were chatting over brunch. "Step aside, Sarah. The girl's eyes are worth more than you can imagine." I aimed at his chest, my finger itching. "Try me, Doc." He smiled, unfazed. "You think you can stop Section 9? We're not a gang, we're a machine. Cut one head, another grows." Bear crashed through the doorway, shotgun raised. "Wrong diner, asshole," he growled, and I swear Crane's smug mask cracked for a second. Then it hit, a flashbang detonated outside, the blast shaking the walls, white light searing my eyes. I shielded Jenny, my ears ringing, as Section 9's men poured in, rifles slicing the air. Bear's shotgun boomed again, and the bikers fought like demons, their Harleys roaring outside, circling tighter. I dragged Jenny to the kitchen, remembering the layout: a delivery dock out back, a choke point. I twisted the gas line open, the hiss of propane filling the air, and lit a rag. "Fire in the hole," I shouted, tossing it. The explosion rocked the diner, flames swallowing the back wall, scattering Section 9's men into the night. We held the line, but it wasn't enough. More headlights crested the ridge, SUVs, maybe an APC, their engines shaking the desert. Bear looked at me, his eyes hard. "We can't hold forever, Sarah." I clutched the folder, the names burning in my mind. This wasn't just about Jenny, it was a machine preying on the weak, hiding behind fake science. "Then we don't just hold," I said. "We burn it down." The Harleys surged, 200 engines roaring like a storm. Molotovs arced through the air, fire blooming across the SUVs. Bear led the charge, his bike tearing through the sand, riders flanking him like a cavalry. I ran through the chaos, dragging wounded to safety, tying off arteries with napkins, my hands steady despite the blood. Crane's voice cut through the smoke. "You can't win, Sarah. Section 9's bigger than you, bigger than this desert." Bear's shotgun answered, splintering the doorframe by Crane's head. "Then we'll teach you how to lose," he roared. The tide turned. The bikers swarmed, chains whipping, bats cracking glass, until Section 9's men broke, their SUVs burning in the distance. The desert went quiet, the Harleys circling slow, their rumble like the earth's heartbeat. I sank against the counter, Ginny clinging to me, her dog nudging her hand. Bear lifted her into his arms, his voice soft for the first time. "You're safe, kid." He looked at me, eyes narrowing. "You're one of us now, Sarah." I shook my head, exhausted. "I'm just a waitress." He smirked. "Not anymore." Then new headlights appeared, not Section 9, but sleek sedans, government issue. A woman stepped out, sharp suit, sharper eyes. "Sarah Kane, Tommy Ruiz," she called. "I'm Agent Laura Holt, FBI. We need to talk." Bear spat in the dirt. "You're late, Fed." Holt didn't flinch. "We were watching. Section 9's not just a cartel, it's a shadow program, buried deep, with politicians and labs on their payroll. You just kicked a hornet's nest." I tightened my grip on Jenny. "You let this happen?" Holt's eyes softened, just a fraction. "We needed proof. Now we have it in you." She handed me a scorched hard drive, pulled from the wreckage. "This is your fight now, Sarah. Section 9 won't stop, not until you expose them." I looked at Jenny, her blind eyes steady, and felt the old fire from Iraq flicker back, not for war, but for something bigger. "If I do this," I said, "it's my way. No more victims." Holt nodded, and Bear growled. "You use my daughter, I'll bury you myself." Holt didn't argue, just turned back to her car, leaving the choice in the air. Dawn broke, painting the desert gold. The Harleys formed up, Jenny safe in a van, Bear at the lead. I rode with them, the folder tucked in my jacket, its names heavy as bullets. We hit a lab that morning, a steel fortress disguised as a pharma plant. Molotovs flew, fences fell, and we pulled dozens of people out, sedated, scarred, but alive. Section 9's empire cracked, but I knew it wasn't over. They'd come again, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a year. But as I looked at Jenny, at Bear, at the riders who'd fought for a girl they didn't even know, I wasn't afraid anymore. That night at Dusty's, I wasn't just a waitress. I became something else, a fighter, a guardian, someone who'd draw a line in the sand and dare anyone to cross it. And you know what? I'd do it again. Not a chance in hell I'd let them win. So, what do you think? Was it right to fight like that, to risk everything for one girl? Or is Section 9 too big, too deep to ever really stop? Drop a comment. Tell me what hit you hardest: Jenny's courage, Bear's army of Harleys, or that moment when I realized I wasn't running anymore. Subscribe if you're with me, because this story's not done, and I'm betting you want to see how it ends.